there was a Hasidic gentleman that was walking alongside me as we walked down the Arab Shuk toward the Kotel. And he started speaking to me in Yiddish. And I was very flattered that he thought that I would understand his Yiddish, actually. And I didn't want to disappoint him or embarrass myself. So I pretended to understand them. And as we parted ways, we arrived at the Kotel. He said to me, Mashiach is a kumen. That I understood, and I could say amen too. So bringing Mashiach at this time, 9 days, let's talk about the title of my class, Achdut velo achidut. Achdut velo achidut means unity without uniformity. And it challenges us when we talk about Achdut, what do we really mean by unity? And when we say without Achidut, without uniformity, how much are we willing to allow the people around us to really be different than we are, or maybe what the halacha mandates? So you keep those two questions in mind. I'd like to approach it from two different directions. One is, how am I supposed to act with the people in my family, my friends, my social circle, and as I meet people? How do I act in order to bring the Jewish people back together? And the second one is a deeper philosophical thing. What is geula? What does it really mean in Israeli society or all over the world in Jewish society that we bring people together? So I want to talk about it in both ways. I'm going to talk about starting, well, with family, with people that we don't really get along with, and then I'm going to move from there to maybe the macro. So if we weren't in a Zoom meeting and we were all together, I would ask you, how many people have somebody in their life that they find is really annoying? It might be somebody that you gave birth to. It might be somebody that gave birth to the person that you're married to. It could even be somebody you're married to, or it could be beyond that. How many people have somebody like that in their life? I have people like that in my life. Most people do. And if we're going to talk about unity, let's talk about those people. So if you have somebody in your life like that, I'd like to share with you a little bit of a joke. All of you appeared on somebody else's list. When other people were thinking of people that annoy me in life, most all of us probably appeared on someone else's list. I'd like to share with you quickly 5 divrei chazal, 5 explanations or things to keep in mind from the great sages in order to deal with such people. And I have an acronym for it. It's called bling. Bling, I think, is a slang word that people use for jewelry. A married woman told me that she taught this over to her husband. She said, I touch my earring, I remind him about bling to remember the 5 statements of Chazal. The first one that I'd like to share with you quickly is the rabbis say, do not put a stumbling block in front of the blind. And the rabbis say further, if somebody is going to violate a halacha, you don't give them advice that would allow them to violate that halacha. A fellow says, where can I go that there's a restaurant that's open on Kol Nidrei night, and you know that he's Jewish? You're not allowed to give him the directions how to get to the restaurant he's looking for. Now, you might be thinking that such a person, we might call them ignorant, you might call them wicked, you might call them a bad guy, you might call him a transgressor, but the Torah calls him blind. Why does the Torah choose the word blind? Because if you would be, as the example that I'd like to give, imagine you live in a winter climate. I lived in Toronto for 13 years. And as you're leaving a social gathering, you're standing there and you're standing on one foot and pulling on your boot, and someone comes behind you and gives you a zetz. and you go into the wall a little bit. How do you feel? You're pretty angry. You turn around, you see, you want to confront the person. They're blind. Now, how do you feel? Someone mistakenly told me, oh, I squelch my anger. You don't squelch your anger. It disappears completely on its own. When you see that they're blind, your anger disappears. That's why the Torah tells you that such a transgressor, you should look at them as a blind person. Doesn't use the word Russia. It says blind, iver. Lifnei iver lo titen michshol. That's how the Rambam brings it in his counting of the mitzvot. So when you see that people are blind, you get an idea, a little bit more understanding of them. You have blind spots in your life. I have blind spots in my life. There are the same mistakes that I make over and over, and people tell you, you should be more patient, you should be more this or more that. But you're a little bit blind. It's hard to change. Some things are a little bit built into our DNA. I ask people, is there anybody here that would admit they just get very impatient with people? Somebody will always raise their hand. I point to them, I go, stop it. They're not able to. We all have a blind spot, every one of us. So the first step in understanding people is to realize other people, just like me and just like you, they have a blind spot in life. They're not gonna get it. So B is for blind. Rather, Chazal tells us, look at people making mistakes, they're blind. The second step I would give you is, we are all familiar with the commandments, the mitzvot, lo linkom v'lo lintor. Do not take revenge on people and do not bear a grudge. The rabbis explain it. Someone comes to you and says, may I borrow, you go to somebody, may I borrow your shovel? The fella says, no, you cannot borrow my shovel. The next day, that same fella comes and says, can I borrow your axe? And you say to him, yesterday I wanted to borrow a shovel from you and you wouldn't give it to me. So today I'm not going to give you what you're asking for me. You wouldn't do a kindness for me, so I won't do a kindness for you. Let me ask you, does this happen among strangers? Where you ask them for favors, they don't give it, and then you're going to get revenge by not doing a favor for them? No. Where does this most likely happen? It happens in marriage, and it happens between people that love each other. I was expecting a kindness from you, and you didn't deliver, so now I'm going to get revenge, and I'm not going to deliver the kindness to you. This is the process that Chazal warns us against. It happens with people who love each other. Revenge and bearing a grudge, it happens between people that love each other. So keep that in mind when you're losing patience with people. It's the people that probably you most love in the world. See the foolishness of that. You don't want to harm the most precious relationships you have, your children, spouses, family, close friends. You love them. So please keep that in mind. When they're acting in an unreasonable way, you love them. So to review, look at the people around you that make mistakes all the time. And they keep doing the same thing that annoys you all the time. They're blind, just like you are. By the way, when I say the morning brachot, I say pokeach ivrim, and I have in mind, please Almighty God, pokeach ivrim, open my blind spots, the mistakes that I make over and over again, show me to have vision and not be blind. L is that very often the most irritating things happen among people that we love. All right, the third step, and we're going to just go through these 5 quickly, is temporary insanity. Chazal tells us the following statement: Ein Adam chote ele shenichnas bo ruach shtut. A person does not do a mistake except they were temporarily insane. What does it mean? We all know, can I be honest? I mean, I don't know the people on the Zoom, but I bet this is people are emotionally evolved. You're people like me. Yeah, you're very advanced emotionally. Can I say it? We've cracked the code of life, people like us. We get it. We understand how we're supposed to act. And yet, even great people like us, you ever have a bad day? You ever have a day where you're acting a little bit below your emotional quotient? I can be like that. Because we're friends now, I think I can admit to a little bit of a weakness. But if I wake up in the morning and my beard's not sitting exactly correctly, you ever have that bed head, where the hair, on the pillow, or maybe the hair's not sitting right. I have that, and I'm a little bit down on myself. And the first person that speaks a little bit less than perfectly polite to me, I might be rude to them. I'm temporarily insane. We all know in marriage and beyond, most of the time, when people act in an inappropriate way to us, you're not getting an apology. Not happening. But people are acting, it's not them. They're a little bit below their ideal self, or as Chazal told us, they're temporarily insane. Ein adam chote ele shenichnas bo ruach shtut. So be understanding of people. That's not the way this person usually is, but everybody has their days, including me. So B stands for blind, L stands for love. We love these people. I stands for they're temporarily insane. Think about these. They don't apply in every situation, but they apply in a lot of situations. These are attitudes to integrate into the way that we judge other people. N stands for nothing. Most of the time, not all the time. Most of the time when people hurt our feelings or they annoy us, most of the time, in the perspective of time, it's nothing. Now, I don't know about the people that are on this call right now, but is there anyone here that would think to yourself, you get annoyed with other people 1 time a day, 2 times a day? I get annoyed several times a day with people. If you think about it, that means in a typical month, you have 100 annoyances. All right? The Rambam says in Hilchot Deot that most of the time that people are getting annoyed, it's Hevel Varik in Hilchot Deot, Perek Zayin. Most of the time we're annoyed, it's nothing and it's nonsense. Not all the time. There are heavy things that happen. But most of the time, it's nothing. It's Hevel Varik. So you think 100 times I got annoyed in the month of May. And yet people look at it, they're remembering the month of May. How much do they really remember from it? They remember very little. You look back at it, what happened during that month? You barely remember anything that happened. So it's nothing. I don't know the demography of people that are on the listening right now, but I do say to married men, look at this idea that most of the time that you get upset that it's nothing. For a married man, I tell him you should wait 24 hours before you respond to your wife on anything that she said that really annoys you. Even though it was something so serious that you're not even just speaking on behalf of yourself, you're speaking up on behalf of all men around the world to stand up the honor of all men. Even when it's that serious, wait 24 hours. What do men tell me when I give them that advice? They go, Rabbi, I can't wait 24 hours. Can you fill in the blank? I can't wait 24 hours because if I don't tell my wife right now and I wait 24 hours, then fill in the blank. The men say, I'll forget. Guys, it was nothing. If you're going to forget about it in 24 hours, it was nothing. So I ask you to please keep that in mind in day to day as we try to get along with each other. We can talk all the highfalutin philosophy about sinat chinam, but you got to live it on a day-to-day and a moment-to-moment basis. All right, so we look at people, they make mistakes, but they're blind, and I'm forbearing of them, just like I'm blind. I love most of the people that are harming me or that might hurt my feelings. Insanity, they're acting a little bit below what their usual level is, and I can forgive that. And again, most of the time, it's nothing. I won't remember it later on. Do you really want to disturb the tranquility of people that you love over something you're not going to remember a day from now or certainly a month from now? G, to complete the acronym of BLING, the Sefer Chinuch says that whenever something happens between us, bein adam lechavero, and somebody really annoys us, we should know that it's a message min shamayim. It's on the mitzvah shelo linkom, mitzvah reish mem aleph in the Sefer HaChinuch, and he says, we're getting a message min shamayim from heaven, and I'm supposed to get the lesson. There's something I'm supposed to learn, and if it's somebody that I work with regularly, that means I'm not learning the lesson, and the Almighty wants me to get that lesson on a regular basis in order to grow and get the wisdom. So G is get the lesson. I'm supposed to be more forbearing. Or maybe that person's annoying me because subconsciously I'm annoying them. Don't put it all on them. Sinat chinam, very often, it begins at home, begins with us. So we shouldn't be arrogant or have a chip on our shoulder looking at the other guy. I've got to take equal responsibility for it. So this acronym of BLING, I'm going to go on to another part now in a moment, but I do ask you to remember it because all Torah is almanat la'asot. These are 5 divrei chazal, BLING, that people are blind, we love them, temporary insanity, most of the time it's nothing, and get the message. This is from Chazal, from Rishonim. Remember that and put it into practice. These are attitudes in life. All right, so we're going to work on being forbearing with people. I'm going to confess to you that we all went through a difficult time in Corona, and the second hardest thing that I had was isolation. I was being very careful. I did not want to get sick. I had heart surgery 8 years ago, and my doctor told me, don't get this. But deeper, something more disturbed me. As I talked to my friends, and I talked to people that I know for many years, I think I got to appreciate how differently, even old friends, how differently we look at the world. And in talking to them, I found attitudes towards Medinat Yisrael, or attitudes towards Zionism or anti-Zionism, how different I was among my friends. There were very different attitudes about how you should relate to the corona, vaccinations, masking. People had different ideas. Politics, we know it, how differently people are. And it was a real challenge for me. And when we talk about Achdut velo achidut, unity without uniformity, The challenge is brought to us. I want unity with people. I want unity, but we're very different. And what does unity mean in the face of these kinds of differences? So let me share a couple of ideas with you on it. There are ideas that you may consider to be chutz lemachaneh. In fact, all of us have ideas that we say, somebody that proposes these things, they're outside of my circle or anything that I consider to be acceptable Jewishly. Now, we may draw the lines differently. Some people will say anything against halacha, that is chutz lemachaneh, that is outside the lines that I can talk about. Other people, they say, well, people don't know as well, whatever. Or even inside the halacha, they will say, but my hashkafa is Zionist or anti or non-Zionist. Whatever the things are of hashkafa, a person should be sitting and learning full time. No, ideally, they should have a career and be self-sufficient and working. So both sides might feel they're within halacha, but we have very different ways of looking at the world. So how do we bring together Achdut v'lo Achidut? I'd like to bring from the brothers of Yosef a few ideas now from the brothers of Yosef in addressing this. I'm going to start where the brothers have come to Egypt and they have their confrontation with Yosef. That is, they do not recognize him yet, but they have bought provisions from him. And Yosef very cleverly does something. He says, as the brothers are about to leave, he tells his assistant, I want you to fill each one their bags with the food that they have bought, that they've purchased. And I want you to return their money and put it on top of the sack. And then one of them, Binyamin, I want you to take my silver chalice, my geula, and put it on the bottom of his sack. Well, it sounds very generous. He's giving them back their money, but it's really a bit of a cruelty what Yosef is doing. Because the previous time they came, he gave them back their money and they were terrified. We look like we stole our money. It was distinctive Canaanite money. And the fact that you're leaving Egypt with the same money you came, it looks like you stole back your money. And they were terrified the first time it happened to them. And now he's doing it to them a second time. And now he's adding even a worse thing. He puts a silver chalice, the geula, puts it by Binyamin. Why does he do this? Everything that Yosef is doing is a fulfillment of the dictum in Hilchot Tshuva of the Rambam in the second chapter. That when you go through a situation where you made wrong choices previously, but now you make the correct choices, that's the way to do tshuva. Yosef has hatched a complicated plot. You guys didn't like the son of Rachel. You didn't like the favorite son. You were envious. And that's underneath it was why you caused me, why I was sold as a slave. Well, the second brother, the only remaining brother of Rachel, the other brother who is the favorite, I'm going to make you do the right thing now, whereby me, you did the wrong thing. How do we know that Binyamin is now the favorite brother? We see it. Yaakov Avinu sent his 10 sons to Egypt. What did he tell them? All 10 of you go down there, but Binyamin, I want him to stay back. He's the only one. If you're one of the other 10 brothers, what are you thinking? What am I, chopped liver? Yeah, he's got to stay because it's dangerous, but I have to go. There is a certain resentment. He's the only other son of Rachel Imenu. All right. Yosef has set up the ideal time to do tshuva. I'm going to accuse Binyamin now and all of the brothers. You guys all are thieves. You stole from me. They're leaving Egypt. The police come running out after them. And the Torah troubles to tell you, Hechel begodel. Yosef tells them, start with the oldest brother and then go down to the youngest brother. Why do we have to know such a detail? I want every brother to go through the following experience. You're a thief. No, I'm not. Open your sack, you liar. And the brother, starting with Reuben, opens his sack. And what's on the top? And it was stated it's put on the top of the sack, his Canaanite money. He looks like a thief. The policeman ignores it, goes through the contents of the sack. No, there's no silver chalice here. The geula is not here. Every brother, you're a thief. No, I'm not. Open your sack. I look like a thief. Somebody could judge me the wrong way. Yosef is prepping his brothers. Please judge the other son of Rachel to the good. Please judge him to the good. That's what he's setting them up for. Well, every brother goes through it. They get to the last brother, and it's Binyamin. And he too has his money. They ignore it. And they find the chalice, the geula. And they say, you are a thief. That is, the policeman does. You are going to be brought back to Egypt. You're going to be brought back. How do the brothers judge Binyamin? Did they say, wow, I went to Egypt and I was framed to look like a thief. It must be my brother whom I love. I'm going to judge him to the good. He was also framed to look like a thief, but he's really innocent. Just like I know I'm innocent, he's innocent. And that's what I would have said, or would have thought the brothers' motivation was. But Midrash Rabbah, Breshis Rabbah says, they looked at Binyamin, all the brothers, and they said, Ant Ganva Bar Ganva. You're a thief, the son of a thief. Your mother Rachel stole the trophy from her father. You stole from the king of Egypt. Now, I would never say this, but it's in Midrash Rabbah that says it. The brothers all looked at Binyamin. You stole from the king of Egypt. When I see a midrash like this, I'm very bothered. Where in the written text is there any hint that the brothers judged Binyamin too harshly, that they thought he was guilty? And I think I have an answer. If you look at the end of Parshas Miketz, the brothers, when they see that Binyamin has stolen goods at the bottom of his sack, they tell the policeman, or at that time, they go, we should be, we'll be slaves, and the person should die. That's a thief. That's before they see it's discovered. The policeman tells them, in Egypt, we are a civilized country. We only punish guilty people. Innocent people go home. Innocent people go home. Then they do it again. They find it, and the brothers say, we shall all be your slaves. And again, the policeman tells them, no, that's not how we do it in Egypt. We're a civilized country. We only punish guilty people. And then he tells them a third time, you guys go home. We're done with you. It's only this guy we have a business with. They're told, in my understanding, 3 times, we only punish guilty people. The rest of you are fine. Then Yehuda, at the beginning of the following parsha, gives a very noble speech where a man says, I will die, or I will give up my family and my whole life for the benefit of my brother. It's a very noble speech. I love my brother enough and value what he represents. I'll give up my own life on behalf of my brother. There's only one thing that Yehuda doesn't say. My brother is innocent. He never says that. He's been told 3 times, this is the way you make the argument. He never says it. And in fact, when Yosef is confronted with this, our Torah tells us, V'lo yachol lihitapek. Yosef is going to reveal himself not because it's good for his brothers, but because he's run out. He can't cause any more suffering. It hurts him so much. He can't go on anymore seeing his brothers in emotional turmoil like they are. But said my teacher, Rabbi Noach Weinberg, if he could have, he should have. He should have got the brothers to do tshuva gemura, that they would argue for the innocence of their brother. All right, so we see it that there was a level of, I love my brother so much. I love my fellow Jews so much. I'll die for them. I'll fight for them. I'll be moser nefesh for them. But that I'm actually going to love them and feel close to them and judge them to the good. Now you're asking a little bit more that I'm ready to do. That's why I gave you the 5 steps of bling at the beginning, because we all want Mashiach. We all want geula. We all want to talk about how the other sectors of the Jewish people are holding us back. Not me, of course. Yeah. And yet, in the day-to-day, when you're on the Rakevet in Yerushalayim and somebody's just like standing too close to you, or whatever it is that they did to earn your enmity, or it's something in family, that's where we have to start to understand the macro level. We want to affect things on geula, but we have to act in a way, bein adam lechavero, constantly. That's in consonant with our values. The brothers did not get to the highest level of unity. In fact, when Binyamin and Yosef are united with each other, they cry, they fall on each other's shoulders, and they're crying. And what are they crying over? They're crying over, says Rashi, the Gemara in Megillah, they're crying over the Beis Hamikdash. They're crying over the Churban. Well, why are they crying? Why are they crying about that? They see we got the brothers and all of us to do tshuva, but not to the degree that we've overcome this sinat chinam, this kind of annoyance and hatred that exists among us. We have the same deep principles. We have Achdut, but it's a second level Achdut. First level Achdut I'm going to propose to you is that we love each other and we respect each other. And even though you're different than me, and your role in building the Jewish people is different than my role in building the Jewish people, even though we're from different shvatim and we all have a different tafkid, a different way of expressing our originality, our individuality, of being creative to bring the Jewish people together. It's going to come out in different ways. Some people are artists, some people are businessmen, some people are the full-time learners, some people are incredible in both, etc., etc. We have to look at the other guy as our fellow Jewish citizens, that I love them and I respect them. It's not just that we have the Achdut of the greatest principles over us, of Shema Yisrael, but I love this guy also. And I really care about him, even though he's different than me. Having the same principles does not, that is the overarching, I believe in Torah, I believe in Hashem, I believe in halacha. That's not enough. It's got to be, but I see the other person, who they really are. They're different than me and I can love them. Where do we see this? It's in the deathbed scene of Yaakov Avinu. And I believe it has exactly what we need to understand during the 9 days approaching Tisha B'Av. Yaakov Avinu calls in his sons, and I'll say it once in the Hebrew. He says, Hey Asfu, Hey Asfu, Hey Asfu. I want you to assemble yourselves, and I'm going to use the English from now on. I want you to assemble yourselves, my sons, and I will tell you what's going to happen. Ba'acharita yamim. I'm going to give you the secrets to the coming of Mashiach. At that moment, when Yaakov Avinu said, assemble yourselves, I'm going to give you what you need to know about Mashiach now, it disappeared from him. He lost that aspect of Nevuah. He could not communicate to them what they needed to know to bring Mashiach. In fact, he was so alarmed, said the Midrash. He says, is there something seriously wrong in one of you guys? Is there something seriously wrong? And you know the Midrash. He said, do kabetz, collect together. And they all said, Shema Yisrael. They said the Shema. And in the Rambam, in his simple recounting of the Midrash, they reassured their father, we all believe in Yichud Hashem. We all believe in the Masorah of Am Yisrael, of Klal Yisrael, and the Torah that's about to unfold, and the destiny of the Jewish people. We're totally in. At that point, Yaakov Avinu is reassured. But he was originally disappointed. So I'd like to explain the difference between the two verbs that are used there of asifa and kabetz. And again, I'm preferred for simplicity to go ahead with the English words. Asifa is assemble, and kabetz is gather. I invite you for Shabbos. Come to the Palatnik home. Yeah, we're here in Yerushalayim, not far from City Hall. Everybody gather at 9 p.m. You can daven at the hotel, wherever you like, and gather together here at 9 p.m. Everybody, the dozen guests, gather here. And then what happens when you walk in the door? You have to assemble. And my wife will say to you, okay, my husband sits over here, and I sit on the other end of the table, and this couple will sit in this and across or next to it. We're going to assemble. Assemble is that final putting together of the puzzle. Kabetz, as we come to the Palatnik household. Assemble is the seating arrangement when we get here. You'll be good at talking to this one, husbands and wives together, however we're going to assemble together. You see this in the prayers. We say, the kabetzenu, bring us from the four corners of the earth. Kabetz, bring us from the four corners of the earth. But then look at the modim derabanan. I need to read it. It says, give us life and maintain us. Ken tichianenu v'tikiamenu v'te'esof galuyotenu. Asifa. Assemble those that come from the galut, lechatzrot kodshecha, to your holy courtyards. We're coming back to the Beit HaMikdash, v'te'esof. Assemble us, Kohanim, Leviim, Bnei Yisrael, Ezrat Nashim. We can take it, perhaps even the 12 machanot. Everybody has their place where we're going to be assembled. That's the final bringing together. We mistakenly look at Achdut. We all believe in Torah. We all believe halacha, basic principles, fine print, what the Torah is teaching us. That's not enough for Achdut. There's other people who are going to have a different role in expressing the geula, in expressing their love of Torah. We have the creative artist, we have the fellow that's in kollel, we have the people that are the fighters in whatever way for the Jewish nation, the businessmen, the teachers. We all have so many. Our Torah tells us 12 tribes with 12 different roles. I saw in Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky, he makes the point that the consolation for not learning about Mashiach, the consolation prize, let me tell you your tafkid, your role in bringing Mashiach. I can't tell you the whole thing because you guys didn't love each other enough. But I can tell you we all have different roles. We see when Yosef passes away, when he dies, the brothers immediately think, now Yosef is going to get revenge against us. They didn't get to the final tshuva. I love this guy. And by the way, Yosef made mistakes that Chazal describes. He misjudged his brothers. But you're allowed to make mistakes, and other Jewish people love you anyway. You make mistakes, people should forgive you. I make mistakes, I hope they forgive me. And I got to work to forgive other people and then go beyond that and love them. So Chazal makes that point clearly. Yosef made misjudgments, but he was a great tzaddik. But even such a person makes mistakes. And all the more so for the other brothers who were very, very great, but they had lack of perfection. And what they accomplished in their lifetime was 99% of what we need to build Klal Yisrael and Mashiach. The last 1%, we've been working on it for 3,000 years now and more. We've got to do that last 1%. So I'm going to review it. Bling. I feel, I'm just going to be blunt. I'm not here to give you an emotional charge. I don't really know how to do it if you were in person, and I certainly don't know how to do it over Zoom. I'm sharing with you 5 divrei Chazal. If you do it, al menat la'asot. Torah is meant to be done. Look at your neighbor that makes mistakes or your family member. They're blind. They're not going to get it. They're not going to change. They don't see it. You're like that too. Be forbearing. You love these people. They didn't do a favor for you. They're people that you love. If something, God forbid, bad happened to them, you'd be out of your mind. So keep that in mind when you're challenged to forgive somebody. Bling. I is temporary insanity. That people don't always act in the highest way. You're not going to get an apology most of the time. Forgive them. And not everything, but most things that get us upset are nothing. And you can forgive people. You're not going to remember it 24 hours from now or a month from now or for a small amount of money or even a moderate amount of money. You would forgive the person. So keep it in mind. The Sefer HaChinuch says, the Rambam says in Hilchot Deot, Perek Zayin, that most of the time we get upset, it's nothing. And G, get the message. When we talk about moving on, when you understand what a Kadosh Baruch Hu is teaching you, that you have this difficult person in your life, and what I'm supposed to learn, and how I'm supposed to grow, the Sefer HaChinuch says, that's when you'll be able to move on. That's when you'll be able to move on from it, when you're able to do that. You learn from the brothers Yosef and from Yaakov Avinu, Achdut velo achidut. All the 12 tribes have a different role to play. And all of us today, wherever we are, we're different kinds of people. It will be expressed in different ways, even though we love Torah and we love what the Jewish people, our mission in the world, to be Makadashem Shemayim. At the same time, we're going to do it in different ways, but that's Achdut, second level Achdut. First level Achdut is we have the same understanding of our national goals, but we love each other and respect each other. And I see the other guy has a different way of going about it. And yet I'm not looking down my nose at him. I can learn from him as much as I can learn from people in my own camp. That's it. I don't know if there's questions or as you like. I'm done. If people had questions or whatever, either on the chat or to be unmuted, I appreciate that I had the opportunity to speak to you all and share this with you. And I'll just remind you, my Hasidic acquaintance, are you able to hear me? My Hasidic acquaintance that I saw in the shuk on Erev Shabbos, I'm pretending to understand Yiddish when I don't, but the only part that I understood, he told me, yeah, he said, Mashiach is a kumen. So I hope so that we have a celebration and not a fast day this coming Sunday.
It's a beautiful finale. It's a beautiful day of learning. Thank you, Rabbi Palatnik. This was terrific and inspiring and practical and really something in the end, Hamasa Huaikari. It's what we take home to do. And you definitely gave us food for thought and for action going forward. So thank you very much for that.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. We will send
you.
out links of shiurim that we have recorded, which are some of the shiurim we have recorded. If we have your emails. And if you did not register, my email is leah25@gmail.com. Thank you. It was a great having you, and we're looking forward to having more such days, hopefully on other topics, because Mashiach will come on Sunday or before Sunday. We won't have to learn about geula. We'll just be living it. That'll be the best thing. And then we'll learn other things together. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Thank you, Rabbi Palatnik.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.